In early January 2026, Minneapolis found itself at the center of intense national scrutiny following a series of violent encounters between federal immigration officers and residents. What began as an enforcement operation escalated rapidly into widespread protests, clashes with law enforcement, and deep political division, both locally and across the United States. This documentary recounts, in factual detail, the events that unfolded and the underlying causes shaping them. On January 7, 2026, a federal immigration agent fatally shot 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis. U.S. authorities described the encounter as part of a large immigration enforcement operation involving hundreds of federal officers. Local officials and community members sharply disputed the federal account, arguing that Good posed no immediate threat and that the use of lethal force was unjustified. Her death quickly became a rallying point, sparking protests not only in Minneapolis but also in cities across the United States. The federal presence in Minneapolis was part of what the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, described as one of the largest immigration enforcement efforts in U.S. history. Thousands of ICE agents and affiliated officers were deployed, conducting arrests and operations throughout the Twin Cities. Local leaders, including Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, criticized the scale and tactics of the operation, calling it unsustainable and demanding accountability and transparency from federal authorities. About 1 week after Good's death, on Wednesday, January 14, 2026, another federal officer-involved shooting occurred in North Minneapolis. According to official statements from the Department of Homeland Security, federal officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop involving a Venezuelan national who was reportedly in the U.S. without legal authorization. The individual attempted to flee in a vehicle and crashed into a parked car. When officers pursued on foot, the man allegedly resisted arrest. At that moment, 2 other individuals emerged from a nearby residence and, according to federal accounts, joined the confrontation, allegedly attacking the officer with a shovel and a broom handle. Fearing for his safety, the federal officer fired a single shot, striking the man in the leg. The injuries, both to the man and to the officer, were described as non-life-threatening. The 3 people involved were later taken into custody following a brief standoff. Word of the second shooting spread quickly through Minneapolis. On Wednesday night, a large crowd gathered near the scene. What had begun as a protest turned into intense clashes between demonstrators and federal law enforcement. Officers wearing gas masks and helmets deployed tear gas, while some protesters threw rocks and fired fireworks at law enforcement. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara declared the gathering an unlawful assembly and urged people to disperse. By early Thursday morning, the crowds had diminished, although the atmosphere remained tense and uneasy. These 2 shootings did not occur in isolation, but against the backdrop of a broader national debate over immigration enforcement, the use of force by federal agencies, and civil liberties. Federal authorities have defended their operations by asserting they must act when officers are assaulted or faced with violent resistance. Critics, including local governments and civil rights groups, argue that the scale and tactics of the federal immigration surge have exacerbated tensions, undermined community trust, and resulted in excessive confrontation. Lawsuits have been filed alleging constitutional violations and questioning whether these operations respect legal norms. As of the latest reports, the Venezuelan man shot in the leg and the officer involved were both hospitalized, with injuries described as non-life-threatening. Protests continue in Minneapolis, although large crowds have not remained at the shooting site beyond the night of the incident. Local and state officials continue to criticize the federal immigration surge while urging calm and peaceful protest. Legal challenges to the federal operation are ongoing, with courts hearing arguments over constitutional and civil rights issues. Minneapolis stands at a crossroads between community safety, civil protest, federal enforcement authority, and individual rights. The events of January 2026, from the death of Renee Good to the subsequent federal shooting and protests, reflect deep national divisions over immigration policy, law enforcement tactics, and the balance between security and civil liberties. This long-form narration has been constructed from multiple reputable news sources reporting the facts as verified at the time of publication, without speculation or unconfirmed claims. If any detail cannot be fully verified from credible reporting, I have either omitted it or clearly noted uncertainty.